following is an exclusive presentation of News Radio KMAN, your home for K-State athletics. It's game time. This is The Game on News Radio KMAN.
If you're a fan and you watch the Pat McAfee show daily, you may have noticed that the show the last two games have come to an abrupt end in kind of a weird way if you're watching on ESPN. It was a couple of days ago that the show wrapped up with just the guys looking towards the camera and then just the screen goes black with a little sound effect of like power shutting down. Today, a blue screen just kind of pops up on the television and it said, "You lied." Well, long story short, it's a wrestling angle.
Okay.
It's a WWE angle. But there are some out there that have no idea what's going on and think it's some ESPN/Disney conspiracy theory, some deep state thing. I don't know. It's not that, I promise you. It's not that. It's nothing but a wrestling angle. With this group called the Wyatt Six, S-I-C-K, and then a 6 at the end, which I thought was very clever, who debuted on Monday Night Raw. It's about them. So, no, it's no conspiracy. It's just a wrestling thing.
You know, it's interesting because I feel like now, as long as I've known you, more things I start to see have references to wrestling. I just feel like ever since I've met you, I start to see that more. I don't think I paid as much attention before I met you, though.
I kind of treat the way I format the shows like I'm booking a wrestling event with the order of the show where I'm putting certain segments, you know. As in today's show will feature Mitch's top 100 TV theme songs of all time, 90 through 86. Putting that towards the end of the show, that's a big deal.
What point do you flash the sign that you lied in the middle of it?
Well, let's see here.
Great question,
Let me look at the rundown here.
No? Okay.
There's not really a whole lot of room for lying today.
Okay. All right.
No, there's not a whole lot. It's pretty much straight to the facts. Maybe we'll throw a little some conspiracies in at the 4:30 segment because we are going to play some Blindly Ranked 5.
Right.
And that's going to be more of a serious topic, more than sometimes we goof off a little bit with that segment. This will be more of a serious one today. Throw some politics in at 4:40. There's some room for lying. Maybe some fibs thrown in there. We're going to talk about the cheapest beer in college football because now there's a fight over that title with some folks out of the state of Louisiana. But what I'm really looking forward to is I actually spoke to him yesterday. I'll play the interview coming up at 5:10. That's with Blue Valley head coach Alan Terrell. K-State football has that very strong relationship, that pipeline now over the last 4 recruiting classes with Blue Valley High School. There's a very strong connection between Coach Terrell and Chris Kleiman at K-State. Those details along with, hey, you do realize there's some more Lockett boys coming up in the class of 2027. So we'll talk about all that coming up at 5:10. It's a really good conversation that I'm really looking forward to playing it back for you guys at 5:10. And by the way, boys and girls, there's a 5-star recruit in town right now. If you passed Aggieville, you went through Aggieville, you may have noticed on the Rally House sign, "Welcome home, Lincoln Cure." The 5-star tight end from Goodland High School, Goodland, Kansas, is in town for an official visit. And, of course, best case scenario, they get it all wrapped up on this visit. They've been doing a lot of that recently. June has been a very hot month. Temperature-wise, yes. Even more so in K-State football and basketball recruiting. Do want to lead off, though, and welcome Lincoln to town. Kind of get a little bit worried when I see the signs popping up. Hadn't worked out too well for basketball, but I will say we all know that K-State basketball has done a very good job with the recruiting for this upcoming season. KSNT, and we'll lead off with this story about Drum Tang because they have released details did KSNT about his new contract. I shouldn't say new contract, it's an amended contract. New details. More bread is in this contract for Jerome Tang. The length of the contract is not different. It's still the same. It's through 6 more seasons, but it's more cash for Tang and a few more amended things. So let's get to those details. And as you may remember, it was just a couple of months ago that Tang was entertaining the idea of and listening to the folks over at Arkansas to potentially take that job where Eric Musselman is now with USC. Nope, it's Coach Cal at Kentucky instead. They had to go with a second or third option there in Fayetteville. They couldn't get their main guy, and that's Jerome Tang. Tang stays home, recruits the hell out of 24-25 out of the transfer portal. We're ready to roll for 24-25. Now, here are the details, the new details about Jerome Tang's contract. When I say more bread, that's more money, and he's going to get $500,000 more money per year, with still that $100,000 increase every season. So instead for this upcoming year making $3 million, it's now $3.5 million. That'll go up $100,000, 25-26. And for his final year of his contract, $4.1 million. Coach Tang will also make $200,000 retention bonus each season he remains the head coach at K-State. That'll be paid out each year on May 31st. So shout out Coach Tang getting an extra cup of Hundo Thou back on May 31st. Couple of more things. Let's take a look at the buyout. Should Coach Tang leave K-State for whatever reason of his choice, let's say a different job? Coach Tang would owe K-State $5 million through the 24-25 season. That is down $1 million from where it was previously. And that will trickle, I should say it'll decrease by $1 million each season until it's down to $1 million 28-29, 29-30 seasons. Now, if Coach Tang was to be fired now through 25-26, K-State Athletics would owe Jerome Tang $18.6 million. That number then will decrease by approximately $3 million each year.
What a payout. Wow.
And there's one more thing, and I think this is a very, I can't recall if anything like this was in Jerome Tang's previous contract, but here's another amendment. And that is if Gene Taylor leaves for whatever reason, if Gene Taylor is no longer K-State's athletics director, Jerome Tang's buyout drops 50% for the 12 months following Gene Taylor's departure. You find that to be interesting?
I do.
I mean, I like it. When I say I like it, like if I was in his shoes, I would want something like that.
I wonder, without knowing, I wonder if there's also one similar to that in Chris Kleiman's contract. I would say probably so.
Well, we know how close these two coaches are to Gene Taylor.
Exactly.
And Gene Taylor, going to bat for these two guys. So those are the details. I don't have a whole lot of reaction to it. My reaction, I guess, is it's paying off so far. Results of the season pending, recruiting-wise, I don't know if it could be much better. It could have been slightly better, I guess. But I think we're all pretty satisfied by how this recruiting class turned out.
Absolutely.
And guys, this recruiting class wrapped up 2 months earlier than we saw the last couple of years. We saw his first year, rebuilding, new coach in town, new roster, just retains 2 players. That class wraps up in August. Second year, more transfer portal, more rebuilding. August. This year, before we reached the middle of June, it was a week ago. It was a week ago. It was, almost right at the halfway mark. June 14th, Coleman Hawkins commits to K-State. He cancels his visit to LSU. He becomes a Cat. The word on the street is that it took $2 million. I mean, that's a different story, of course, but it's all done. It's done. Let's look at it this way. Look at the luxury that now K-State has of focusing on a future recruiting class, attacking 2025. I don't look so much anymore into how many years of eligibility a player has. Mm-hmm. Because rarely anymore now in the last few years we've seen this greatly, not just in Manhattan, across the country. Guys don't last long at particular spots. I mean, if you keep a player longer than 2 years, congratulations, which is the case with David Gasson.
Valid. Yeah.
It's not going to be a common thing anymore.
It's so nuts.
Years of eligibility will tell you your chances of that guy finishing his career at K-State or, keep a guy freshman, sophomore year. Typically now they're out the door looking at something else, just depending on the circumstances.
Just amazing.
But, 2025, they're still, of course, going to look at the high school ranks. But now with the funds available, Coach Tang got himself more of a commitment from K-State Athletics. He's got himself more of a commitment from donors, NIL, the funding for Wildcat NIL. There's more of a commitment all around. That has already paid off for 24-25, like I said, with the results pending. You start attacking 25 without having the pressure of still building a roster for 24-25. You don't have that pressure on. You can focus on 25. What a luxury that is. Mm-hmm. In the most difficult conference in America, that is a luxury.
Yes.
They've already offered the top recruit in the country. And the top recruit in the country, AJ Bydasta, however you say his name, we'll learn it. Hopefully he becomes a Cat. We're going to learn it, sir. I mean, a 6'8" small forward who's a 5-star kid. He's a consensus 5-star and the number one recruit in the nation. Look, what does Jerome Tang have now as a pitch? I'm going to have a five-out offense, an offense that NBA caliber type of players want to play in. And guess what? I just recruited a whole bunch of NBA caliber guys.
He's coming to – sorry.
Well, he got Coleman Hawkins, who just opted out of the NBA draft process, who could have been a second-round guy. Mm-hmm. Probably would have been a second-round draft pick. He's out, lands him. I've got the funds to go get these top guys. Mm-hmm. Things are rolling.
Well, he's coming to K-State because he's got the best name ever, AJ. I mean, if you have a name AJ, you're coming to K-State. That's just how it works.
I think if we want to define how cool the name AJ is, you have to tell me what AJ stands for.
My name AJ? I thought I've told you that before.
If you did, I don't remember.
Okay, Andrew Joseph.
Very biblical.
Yeah.
Wait, is Andrew a biblical name?
No.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Joseph for sure, obviously.
I mean, AJ can mean Aaron Jr.
It could also mean Andrew Jackson, Andrew Johnson.
Oh, my. Okay.
I used to joke about that. To people when they'd ask me, What's your name? Oh, it's Andrew Jackson. No kidding. No, it's not.
Did anybody, Troy, have a nickname for your name?
Nope. I mean, they've attempted.
TC?
Yeah, I mean, that's
TC.
that's about as close as it's gotten. I mean, really, they've tried, but nothing ever has stuck.
See, my real name is Mitchell.
Yeah.
But throughout my entire life, my mom calls me Mitchell. Mm-hmm. But typically there'd be a Lee at the end, and I'm in trouble. Is when I would hear it mostly. I'm trying to think who else.
See, it's the same thing with my mom. If she says Andrew Joseph, well, she'll just call me Andrew Joseph in general sometimes. But yeah, if I hear that, I'm in trouble.
So Joseph is your middle name?
Yes, Joseph is my middle name. And I actually like my middle name.
And just the one middle name?
Yes, I don't have any extra middle names. Although I would say the nicknames primarily for me, just in general, obviously AJ is my nickname that I was given at birth, but mainly my last name has been used to create nicknames. the Shaw father, Shaw dad.
The Shaw father is good.
I like the Shaw father a lot. And I base that basically off of Shaw dad and also my favorite movie, The Godfather.
Shaw dad, it's real, if you were from the South, I would listen.
See, when people would call me Shaw dad, I'd just be like, dude, you're weird. I like Shaw father more.
Do you like Shaw father or The Shaw?
I love them both, man.
Shawshank.
Yeah, it's another one.
Shawshank.
People tried to call me that. They never really caught on. But Shaw father, especially as a Twitter handle, I think it's a really good Twitter handle. Like Mitch the Fort. That's a cool Twitter handle.
Well, coming up on Monday, Stump the Shaw, it'll be The Shaw Redemption.
Yes. I've been studying.
I got you.
I'm trying to get a reaction out of Troy. He's a tough one today. Tell you what, I was looking at earlier today how all the Big 12 was doing, how they did in the transfer portal. I mean, watch out for Texas Tech. Texas Tech did a pretty solid job with their portal recruiting. KU, West Virginia, Houston, everybody you would consider a Big 12 threat. Who's established their name either through wins and losses, coaching, whatever. Wherever that attitude comes from, they all did pretty well. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is going to be. It's fair. Every coach says it every year in the Big 12. It just gets tougher and tougher. No, this might be the toughest year of the Big 12 ever. I mean, I'm not joking.
Yeah, I know. It just continues.
Add on Arizona.
Gotta love it.
Colorado was a tournament team. Arizona State was a tournament team.
The question is, what is going to be a tougher year, football or basketball? I could say possibly both.
Basketball.
Maybe.
Basketball.
You're probably right, actually. But basketball is going to be fun, man.
Well, basketball is just going to be more of a week-in, week-out gauntlet.
Yeah.
It's still fair to say that's going to be the case for football.
Yeah.
But I think you can argue K-State's toughest opponent this season in football is a non-conference game.
Yeah,
and
true.
And it's a conference opponent, though, Arizona. I mean, that's going to be a good game.
That will be a very good game. And
young quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, young.
It's a Friday game.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Under the lights, Fox prime time. Yeah.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, let's talk more Cats with some blindly ranked 5. It's more of a serious one. It's coming up next. You're listening to The Game.
Miss any of the show? Check out The Game podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and of course, NewsRadioKMAN.com. You're listening to The Game on News Radio KMAN.
Goodland 5-star tight end Lincoln Cure recruiting update. This from Avery Johnston's Instagram account. Shout out to Steve for posting this on Twitter. Avery Johnson right now golfing at Colbert Hills.
Nice.
Who do you take with him? Lincoln Cure.
Uh-huh.
I got a feeling they're not the only two out there. I feel like that's a pretty fun game.
Speaking of Tang, I actually saw him at the gas station yesterday.
Was he getting you gas?
No, he was filling his tires.
Because he does that for people.
He was filling his tires. And I'm pulling up. I was going to get a drink, and I'm like, hey, it's Tang. Shout out to him. I'm like, cool, good to see him. I didn't want to bother him. I didn't want to bother him.
Good man.
Looked like he was busy, but
good man.
I'm sure he would have
Oh,
been nice if I had said hello.
Does Jerome Tang use a tire pressure gauge when he fills up his tires?
I'm sure he does because he knows how to fill tires. He got those things done quickly, and he was out of there, man. I go inside. I was looking outside to see if he was still there, and he was gone, man. But yeah, it was nice to see Coach Tang out and about town.
Were you stalking Jerome Tang?
Maybe.
That was quite a play-by-play.
Maybe I was. Maybe I wasn't.
I always, tire pressure gauge, I always use one, but I always, lose mine. It's in the glove compartment somewhere, so I'll just go ask the clerk inside, can I borrow your tire pressure gauge? That's a nice little life hack there. Most convenience stores have a tire pressure gauge for you to use there at the register. Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's do a little blindly ranked 5. Still to come, by the way. Now we're number 2, Blue Valley football head coach Alan Terrell, who used to play some ball here at K-State. He played for Bill Snyder. He's boys, excuse me for that phone going off, is boys with Chris Kleiman. And by the way, there's that pipeline between the two for recruits, and it's paying off extremely well over the last 4 years. So we'll hear his story about that relationship. Meanwhile, did you guys catch Ask the AD that was posted today, hosted by Brian Smoller?
Haven't had a chance to sit down and watch it yet.
It's 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. It was their summer special.
Right.
They covered a lot about additional revenue for K-State sports because of the Big 12 potentially getting into private equity. And, how can K-State bring in that additional revenue just in case that lawsuit does, how do I say this, rule in favor of, go ahead.
Just in case that lawsuit settlement adds to what the budget line has to be.
Yeah, I mean, the revenue sharing that would be allowed to pay out to student athletes could be as high as, $25 million. I think the latest estimate I saw, it was like $22 million, but then I saw $20 to $25 million. It's a lot of cash.
Right.
It's a lot of, I'm sure K-State is thinking now a little bit further on ideas to bring in additional revenue. So, blindly ranked 5 additional revenue ideas for K-State. All but one are not my ideas. These are actually things that we've heard over the last couple of weeks that can now be additional revenue ideas because of rule changes. NCAA, Big 12, and what they will allow programs to do. Troy and AJ, if you want, you guys can play together if Troy just wants to take the reins on this one. Number 1, and this was from the Big 12, and BYU was already doing this, the Hollywood floor seats. So the seats would only be, and the additional revenue I'm sure would be limited, but could be a nice little chunk of change depending on what they just decide to charge. The Hollywood seats, what that means is you see this at NBA games. The seats between the benches and the scores table.
Hate it.
So you don't like the idea. The Big 12 rule would be there would not be any seats between the visitors and the scores table. It's only on K-State's side.
Okay.
And
still,
and Gene said, "Listen, these people would be our donors, people we know well.
Yes,
we have paperwork on.
Yes,
so it limits any sort of issue that could possibly happen."
I get that. One of the things I have an issue with is just from a coaching standpoint, though, that you're removing your bench that much farther down the floor away from that opposite end of the floor for coaching in the first half. It wouldn't
push the coaching boxes back. It just, now he's coaching more in front of I see what you mean, because you're going to have dialogue with your coaches. Well, now your coaches are further down.
Now you've got to go all the way back.
Closer to the baseline. And okay.
You're lengthening that distance between you and the players / your other coaches.
So not a fan of that.
No, I'm not a fan of that. I've never liked that design. I find it to be, honestly, pretty unseemly because you're essentially taking the benches and moving them to the point that they're almost not even a part of the game anymore because you've got all of the Hollywood seats there.
But Troy, this means more money.
I get that it means more money.
Got to do what we got to do.
I know, and I'm aware of that. I'm going to put that at a number 4.
Oh, I was already writing down 5. Hollywood seating at 4 for Troy Coverdale. Number 2 on the list. Listen, I'm sure they're already thinking about this. I think it's time. It won't happen this year, but selling beer throughout Bill Snyder Family Stadium. It's, once again, a topic. Just won't be this year.
I'm going to put that at a number 2, and I understand the concerns, and I also understand the reasons. And the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter if you're selling it in the stadium or if folks are headed back out at halftime and then come back in.
Yeah, if you're selling beer throughout the stadium, there's no more exit re-entry halftime.
Correct. First item that makes that good, actually. But the fact remains, people are going to get that buzz on no matter what you do. And at a point, aren't you better off going ahead and making that money yourself rather than allowing them ingress and egress, however. Anyway, to just go back out to their vehicles.
look, over 80% of what was Power 5 football is selling beer throughout the stadium. I'm not reaching out to every athletic department and asking them, hey, how much money did you make off beer sales in your football stadium this past season? But what I've seen from individual reports from Penn State to Tennessee to Florida State, they've all reported some pretty big numbers. Like additionally, they do have bigger stadiums than K-State has, but I think it was Penn State they said they made over $3.5 million.
This is once again just a hearkening back to the blue laws that have been in place in this state forever. That's what that really comes down to, especially as it pertains to alcohol. And, there is a heritage in this state of prohibition. There are plenty over the years that would have loved to have seen prohibition carry on even farther than it did.
This has nothing to do with old-timey laws, though.
Well, it still does.
It's not. There's no mindset.
It still does in the aspect that there are still so many people in this state that still have that same viewpoint that, no, they don't want alcohol mixing with any of it. You and I recognize how much...
They would raise more hell about a beer garden or drinking in the parking lot. I think that's a major minority.
It's a minority, but it is a minority that has some pull.
I also think it's a minority that don't go to games.
It's a minority that has some financial pull.
Was Riley
still in this state.
Was Riley County a dry county?
No.
We were wet? Okay.
It's still K-State's call, though.
It is still K-State's call. I'm just noting that there are some highly placed people in this state politically that still are of the mindset, and they still have that pull that has always been there that, no, we don't want alcohol sales at events if we can help it, at any of this stuff, because from a religious standpoint, they disagree with it.
So are you saying these people are just K-State fans that don't want to see it because KU is doing it?
That would be a part of it, yes.
Now, would the beer be as cheap as Tulane's beer is if they did have beer at Bill Snyder Family Stadium?
I mean...
No.
Yeah.
I wish,
right.
But no.
Yeah.
Most people would wish, but no. It's that Tulane's like $3.
Yeah.
Wow.
We're trying to continue with this hot streak of recruiting, and we want to keep up with like the Big Ten and SEC as much as we possibly can. So
again,
we're gonna have to keep the prices up.
Again, it is a very small sliver, but has a lot of financial / political pull.
I just don't see it as politically as you do, and I understand where you're coming from.
It's financial pull.
To me, just the loudest argument, it's too down the middle, 50-50 of those that want the access to go back to the car during halftime.
It becomes then also an easy thing to claim, families.
Well, and K-State has the most incredible access to parking from stadium to car than just about anybody else in the country. With a stadium this size, power conference, it's some of the best access in the entire nation.
Mm-hmm. I agree. But some also will put it, again, on it being, it's not a family event if you're selling alcohol at it.
All right, so you have beer sales at 2, Hollywood sitting at 4. Next on Blindly Ranked 5, additional revenue ideas for K-State. This was just put through, I think, like a week or two ago. Sponsorship on the field, as in sell the rights to a company to put their logo on Wagner Field at the 25-yard lines or potentially something at the 50-yard line.
I'm take it or leave it. That's a 3 for me because, honestly, you're at that point where it doesn't matter what game other than at the NFL level at this point that you're starting to see it. I mean, you watch the CFL. Indoor and arena football have been doing it for years. It's something that is in many ways just a norm at various levels. So I don't see it being that big of a deal.
Listen, the Rose Bowl is the most white-collar, pinky-out game there is in college football. If they're cool with putting a sponsor logo at 50-yard line below their logo, nobody's bigger than that.
Yeah.
So, listen, I'm already been vocal about I'm cool with doing whatever for the additional revenue to continue the fight. If there's a logo on the field, there's also a point in time where we're not going to even notice it anymore.
Well, I think that's part of why I'm putting it as a 3, because I don't notice it all that much anymore.
All right, next on the list, a patch on the jerseys.
Yeah.
Football, basketball, whatever,
Boy, oh boy. Fans of the alternate jerseys, here's how you get your alternates. Yeah, well, we're putting a patch on them now. No, I'm kidding. Those who hate the alterations are really going to dislike this. Honestly, again, it's at a point where it's just kind of a given and it doesn't bother me all that much. That's a 1. I'll be, yeah.
When the NBA went in that direction, I thought, man, that is just going to ugly up the jersey. It's going to be huge, noticeable. It honestly wasn't that big of a change, like of where my eyes were going. And
let's be perfectly honest. Soccer, the jersey is the sponsorship.
Yes.
I mean,
it wouldn't be that egregious.
Correct. Exactly.
That
a patch is a minor thing in comparison.
So where did you say you're putting the patch here?
I went ahead and put it 1.
1. Okay. Well,
because I got a feeling that you've got a really bad one looming here.
That's disappointing because our last idea for additional revenue for K-State would, just kind of spitballing here. Having an annual concert festival in the spring called Mitchapalooza that would feature 5 or 6 bands or artists from different decades and genres, and offering ticket tiers with certain amenities, mix of local restaurants selling food and drinks as well, and maybe having like a special deal on margaritas.
The fact that it has that name, I hate it.
Yeah,
Mitchapalooza.
The fact that you waited to put that around to 5 shows that was a genius pick on your part, Troy. Well done.
I
thought it was a great idea.
So you would have it as 1 then.
I recognize
of course.
I recognize right out of the box that there are people that are going to be having Country Stampede flashbacks right now.
Well, hey, one day though, it's just a one-day thing. We don't have the hotels yet.
True.
To put on something multiple day without the camping. I could have had the idea of bringing a SummerSlam or something to Manhattan, Kansas, but the thing is, we do not have the hotels and enough things like that, where people need to sleep. To cover something like that.
I would go to Mitchapalooza for one condition: if you got up and sang.
That's not happening.
All right, then we're not having that happen.
Another reason for 5.
But you know what? Maybe put in a second stage. No second stage. Just one stage. Make it I don't even know how. I haven't worked out the details yet, but hey, if K-State's interested, we'll bang out these details. We'll figure this thing out. All right, let's go ahead and take another break. When we come back, Laura Kelly, our governor. Mm-hmm. She might be my favorite of all time. She really wants to bring the Chiefs and Royals to Kansas and also Tulane. They now have a rival for cheapest beer in college football next on the game.
Your home for K-State sports.
At the buzzer, score the 2, but it's a 1-point win. The 22-game winning streak in Austin is over for the Longhorns. A huge win for Huggins and the Kansas State Wildcats.
This is The Game on News Radio KMAN.
It's The Game on News Radio KMAN. Mitch, Troy, and AJ taking it at 6 o'clock. Royals start at 6:30 tonight. Pre-game coverage, Royals Radio Network.
Back to normalcy.
Yeah. 3-game series at the reigning, defending champions of the world, Texas Rangers.
Who are struggling.
I always think, I just saw that video the other day for the first time of world champions of what? I love that video.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know who it was who said it, but it was some I forgot who was it, Troy. You probably know who it was.
I don't off the top, no. It's been a while since I've seen it.
I know, and like some people kind of.
Oh yeah, I mean it's the mocking the.
When people call the Super Bowl, like they will scoff at when the teams will call themselves world champions. Well,
Right.
I mean it is the pinnacle of that sport.
It was Noah Lyles.
You know, it's the American exceptionalism aspect of sports.
It's the grandest stage of them all for that sport.
Yeah, they have
So
been.
it's fair to say, call yourself a world champion. People from around the world, I mean, sometimes play the sport.
Yeah, they've been struggling, but they've been hampered by injuries. I think Scherzer is pitching tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken.
3:05 start tomorrow, first pitch.
Yeah, he's getting his season debut, and
Perfect, great.
We did touch on this a little bit earlier this week, but Laura Kelly signed some paperwork and made a few things, I guess, official. And that is the efforts to talk the Royals and Chiefs in building a stadium in Kansas. You want to give us the details, Troy? You're the political guy.
This really comes down to the fact that the way that it overwhelmingly passed, she almost was put into a position where better have your name on it and go ahead and make sure that everybody is aware where you stand. Honestly, the initial thought was that she would just let it automatically move through and not put her name to it, but went ahead and signed it. So add one more to the list of those who are in support of this idea.
And it's a big chunk of money if, if this were ever to happen. Goes into effect on the 1st of July, and I mean, it would cover 70% of the new stadium's cost. You know, well, one or both, basically. And Kansas would have 30 years to pay them off with revenues from sports betting.
So, in other words, we're going to probably see the tax on winnings go up a little bit.
Yeah, state lottery tax would be in that there as well.
Yes.
Sales tax would be in there.
Sales tax is going to definitely go up because of the districts.
Alcohol tax. So let's start selling that beer in the stadium so we could get that tax money flowing so we can pay off these new stadiums that are coming to Kansas.
Interesting debate. NFL Memes was out the other day with someone's study of what the average price of a beer at an NFL stadium was, and then they listed what the stadiums were and their specific prices. And it turned into an interesting discussion online because the vast majority of people were like, I haven't paid that little for a beer at such and such stadium in such and such length. In other words, they were questioning really how accurate those numbers were for the 16-ounce beer. And that included Arrowhead. But it had it as just a 16-ounce beer was like $9.54 on average across the NFL.
If you're not paying, $12-13 for a beer at a sporting event, you haven't lived.
The Royals and Chiefs, I mean, if you buy one of those 25-ounce beers, which over the last 4 years, 5 years that I've been to Kaufman was for only one reason, and that was for a concert. And those brews were like $16 a piece for a 25-ounce beer. Mm-hmm. And I sweat it all out because it was 100 degrees that day.
Sure.
What was the concert for?
Motley Crue, Def Leppard, Poison, and Joan Jett.
Oh, fun.
Fun is right. The standing in line for 50 minutes to get in
Not right.
when the sun was beating down on you and it was 104 degrees. And by the way, you're kind of packed in like cattle in a corral waiting to get sprayed. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Here's another story I wanted to touch on. This was actually, I think we maybe talked about this yesterday because I love the marketing from Tulane, trying to sell more season tickets by advertising that they have the cheapest beer in college football. Well, a rival of theirs says, not so fast, Green Wave. Us Raging Cajuns have the cheapest beer in college football. So now we have a tug of war to see who has the cheapest beer. And this might be, I might be moving to Louisiana because I love college football. I love a good deal.
The Cajun rivalry is on.
Louisiana Raging Cajuns are now advertising. They basically stole Tulane's picture they used to advertise. They have the cheapest beer in college football.
Oh, that's something.
They then put a little amendment on there and said, actual underlined cheapest beer in college football, Tulane sells their beer for $3. Louisiana is selling Natty Lights for $2 a piece. And that's where they come in as the cheapest beer in college football.
Oh, my.
I would rather pay the extra $1 for better beer because Natty Lights are disgusting. It's cheap beer. We know what we're getting. It's a binge drinking beer.
My father-in-law's beer.
Oh, he was a Natty Light guy?
Yeah, he was. Needless to say, none of us, the rest of us, would usually touch it.
I wouldn't even touch it in high school.
Yeah, I know. I'm aware.
That's when you dabble with the worst beers you can imagine.
Yeah.
Keystone, trash.
That's the I'm broke beer.
Awful.
Listen, I swear to God, I do not understand the love for PBR. Because I put it in the same category.
I'm okay. I'm okay with PBR. I'm okay with it.
I put it in the same category.
No, it's not bad.
Never have been a fan.
You
It's
don't
not
like
bad.
Pabst?
No.
I think it's more of like how do I say this? I don't know if there is a way to say it. Like, I've always like associated PBR with like punk rock. You know what I mean by that?
I've always associated it with country music. Because
like CBGB in New York City,
Sure.
a big beer there was PBR,
PBR.
and that was like a big part of, from what I understand, like what people drank at punk rock concerts.
did you see the 180 stone pack that they're selling?
I did.
Good God.
Love it.
Mitch, I feel like you're kind of like a big like domestic beer guy.
No, I prefer like brewery.
Brewery?
Like,
So you're big
breweries here in town.
Yeah,
There's
Manhattan
not
Brewing Company.
all of them. And I've been to all of them, and there is I've not had a bad beer.
Right.
At either one of them. They're all great. So I just don't have a favorite. If you were to ask me what my favorite local beer is, I don't have an answer for you. The domestic beers, like, what are always on tap at bars and stuff, I'm a Miller Lite guy.
Miller Lite.
Miller Lite. I've always wanted to go to Milwaukee. I bet that'd be a great brewery tour. And this has nothing to do with anything political or anything. I do not like Bud Light. I think Bud Light is disgusting.
Yeah, it's not high on my list, I'll put it that way.
I don't like Bud Light because it's the St. Louis Cardinal beer, so.
That's fair.
Freaking Cub fan, I tell you.
And what's the Chicago beer
It's
again?
old style.
What does that taste? I've never had one. What does that taste like? Have you ever compared anything?
I don't drink a lot of alcohol.
Okay.
I don't drink a ton of old style, so.
All right, hour 2 coming up next. You're listening to The Game, KMAN.